Hi, good morning, good evening, everyone. So nice to see you all again. Welcome to the next session of the Last Lap series, the final revision for Clat that you all require. So today, as you see on your screen in front of you, we have 6 different topics. Okay, so what I've taken up is a bunch of important anniversaries which have come up during this year. And all of these have been in the news throughout the year, but especially in the last few months of the exam. Remember, if you check the last year's papers, you'll find that most of the topics actually come from the months which come close to the exam. Okay, so which is why what I've done is pick these 6 topics. So just to have a snapshot, as Satyam sir likes to say, we're going to have 150 years of the Vande Mataram, which is our national song. We have 100 years of the Union Public Service Commission. I know some of you at least will be budding civil servants as well. Here we also have another important and related piece of news, and that is to do with the latest chairperson of UPSC. Finally, the last 4 are birth anniversaries of 4 important figures in Indian history. Sardar Patel, of course, India's first Deputy Prime Minister and Home Minister. Then we have Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who has also been a Prime Minister of our country. Syama Prasad Mookerjee, who was a figure related to the All India Hindu Mahasabha and was also a minister in the first cabinet of the country under Jawaharlal Nehru. And finally, we have the 150th birth anniversary of Bhagwan Birsa Munda, okay, who is a very prominent tribal leader during the independence struggle. So these are the 6 topics we are going to take a look at today. But first, let's make a start with the 150th birth anniversary of Vande Mataram. Now, you all know Vande Mataram is our national song. This is being commemorated for an entire year. Okay, so this was announced a little bit earlier in the year, but the commemoration of this has actually begun just today on the 7th of November 2025. Why is that? If you see on the screen, the 7th of November 2025, it marks the exact 150th anniversary of the Vande Mataram. That's because it had originally been published in this journal or magazine called the Banga Darshan. Okay. And the issue of that magazine, when it was published, it was on the 7th of November, 1875. Okay. So this is why the 7th of November is the date which is being flagged as the original publication of the song or poem known as Vande Mataram. Now, if I were to ask you which language this song is in, the song is actually written in Sanskrit. And the interesting part is that later it got incorporated in this book called Anand Mat, written by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. Now, as you can see, its original publication was almost 7 years earlier in 1875 on the 7th of November in the magazine known as Banga Darshan. And later, when Bankim Chandra Chatterjee published his famous novel Anand Mat, which was, I think, later adapted into a movie as well, this poem Vande Mataram gets incorporated into Anand Mat and is published as part of that novel in 1882. Okay. Now, if we just look at the translation, just the title Vande Mataram, it essentially translates to Mother, I bow to thee. Okay. So that's what Vande Mataram actually stands for. I'm pretty sure we've all sung this at different points in our school lives. And the thing to remember is that actually Vande Mataram is a very long poem. It is simply the first stanza of that has been adopted as the national song of India. Okay, you can see the last point on the screen. It was actually adopted as the national song on the 24th of January 1950. This is the same day when the national anthem Jana Gana Mana was adopted as the national anthem as well. Because there were demands to recognize both. The national anthem was recognized, and then it was decided that Vande Mataram, the first stanza, would also be recognized as the national song on an equal footing as the national anthem. That is, it would be entitled to an equal level of respect. Okay. In fact, when you see parliament sessions, usually the session ends with a singing of the Vande Mataram. Okay. So that's a little bit of the history. Now, very interestingly, Rabindranath Tagore, the first ever Indian, Asian, and non-white winner of any Nobel Prize, and India's only literature prize winner, he actually set the music and tune for this song. And therefore, he was the first one who sung it for the first time at the 1896 session of the Indian National Congress, which took place in Calcutta. Okay. So, when does it get written and published first? 7th November 1875, when it gets published in Bangadarshan. Then it gets incorporated into Bankim Chandra Chatterjee's novel called Anandmat, which gets published in 1882. It is sung for the first time by Rabindranath Tagore, who also set its music at the 1896 Calcutta session of the Congress. And finally, it is adopted as the national song along with Jana Gana Mana as the national anthem on the 24th of January 1950. Now, you might be wondering, who is it that adopted it? It was the Constituent Assembly of India, the body that was responsible for framing independent India's constitution. Okay. So what I want to do before we move on with this topic is just to remind you and ask you a few questions related to the Constituent Assembly. This is an important historical and legal topic from India's perspective. And you must have seen even last year in the exam, one entire passage basically focused on the history of the freedom struggle. So which is why I want to do a little bit related to the Constituent Assembly. Now, what do we have to remember? The Constituent Assembly was created on the 6th of December 1946, and it held its first meeting 3 days later on the 9th of December 1946. There's that famous figure. It took 2 years, 11 months, and 18 days to frame India's constitution in the Constituent Assembly. Who was the permanent chairman of the Constituent Assembly? Remember, this is the same person who was the first president of India and the longest serving president of India, since he was the only president to serve 2 terms. In fact, it is on his birth anniversary, just 4 days before your exam, that we observe Advocates' Day in India, because he was also an accomplished advocate. Okay, we are of course talking about none other than Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Okay, he was the permanent chairman of the Constituent Assembly itself. Why permanent? Because there was also a temporary chairman for a little small period of time. His name was Sachidanand Sinha. His only job was simply to swear in the members and hold the election for the permanent chairmanship. Okay. Next, who was the chair of the Constituent Assembly? That's of course Dr. Bhim Rao Ramji Ambedkar, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Next, when is it that India's constitution was adopted? That's a day in this month, in the month of November. And that's the day when we observe Samvidhan Divas or Constitution Day. So the day the constitution was adopted is the 26th of November, 1949. And it came into force on Republic Day, that is 26th of January, 1950. So that's just a little bit I wanted to do related to the Constituent Assembly of India, just to link it to the adoption of Vande Mataram as the national song on the 24th of January 1950, where at the same time, on the same date, Jana Gan Man was also adopted as the national anthem. Okay, now India is such an interesting country. Our national anthem is Jana Gan Man, written in Bengali by Rabindranath Tagore. Our national song is Vande Mataram, written in Sanskrit, published as part of a Bengali novel written by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. Neither Bengali is not spoken by a vast majority of the country. Sanskrit, outside of learning in schools and universities, is not a language of communication anymore. And the third song, which is of some fame in the freedom struggle, is what? Sare Jahan Se Acha, Hindustan Hamara, which was written by Allama Iqbal, who is the national poet of Pakistan, and written in what language? Hindustani, right? A mix of Hindi and Urdu. So very interesting. So let's now come to a question. So this question has been framed keeping in mind all of these aspects. So let's now take a look at it. So let's see the question. Which of the following statements is incorrect? Okay. So always important to know which question has been asked. So here we are being asked which of these is false or incorrect. So the first statement is Rabindranath Tagore, the first Asian to win any Nobel Prize, wrote the national anthems of India and Bangladesh. Okay. Now, is this true? This is 100% true, right? We have seen that Rabindranath Tagore, Vishwa Kavi, the Bard of Bengal, was the first Indian to win any Nobel Prize, the first Asian to win any Nobel Prize, as well as the first non-white person to win any Nobel Prize. He established famed institutions like Visva Bharati and Shanti Niketan. And some of his most famous works are Gitanjali. And he also wrote a short work called On Nationalism, trying to talk about the definition of the word nationalism and what it means to be an Indian nationalist. Very important in today's world. Now, coming back to this statement. So the national anthem of India, of course, is Jana Gan Man, written by Tagore. And the national anthem of Bangladesh is Amar Sonar Bangla, which was also written by Rabindranath Tagore. So option A is absolutely true and therefore is not our best answer because we've been asked which of these statements is false. Okay. Let's now see the second question. The song Sare Jahan Se Acha, Hindustan Hamara, was written by Allama Muhammad Iqbal, who was later the national poet of Pakistan. Okay, written in Hindustani, of course. So I mentioned this song to you. You know why these words are famous? Tell me who the first Indian was who went into space. It was Rakesh Sharma on board a Soyuz T-11. The spacecraft was of USSR, now Russia. But by going into space on that spacecraft, he became the first Indian who went into space, right? Into Earth's orbit. Okay. Now, when he was in orbit, he had a call with the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, and she asked him, how does India look like from there? What does India look like from there? And his answer was, Sare Jahan Se Acha, Hindustan Hamara, right? I'm sure we have sung almost all of these songs in school. The one in option C I'm going to tell you about, you may not have heard that one. Okay. So Muhammad Iqbal, who is said to have given the acronym Pakistan, named after the various provinces which would later join Pakistan. He's a very famous poet. He has written so many important pieces of Urdu Shairi and other Urdu ghazals. And he was the one who put into words, Sare Jahan Se Acha, Hindustan Hamara. Okay. So B also is absolutely true. C, Subh Sukh Chain Ki Barkha Barse. So remember, this says such, it should be Subh, S-U-B-H. Subh Sukh Chain Ki Barkha Barse is an adaptation of Jan Gan Man and was the national anthem of the Arzi Hukumat-e Azad Hind, or the Provisional Government of Free India, headed by Subhash Chandra Bose. So the second part of it you would have known about, that Subhash Chandra Bose had gone outside of India and established this Provisional Government of Free India, or Arzi Hukumat-e Azad Hind, with the support of Imperial Japan. Okay, so he had established this government and he was its president as well as prime minister. We have read a lot about this. He established the Indian National Army as well. So what they did is, on the same tune and with some of the same words as Jan Gan Man, they created this song called Subh Sukh Chain Ki Barkha Barse. And this became the anthem, or the national anthem, of the Provisional Government of Free India. Now, I don't know if you would have heard it. So I have it here. If you will hear it, let's just try that. So that was just to give you a little bit of an idea. So you can see a lot of the tune is very similar to Jana Gan Man, and the words have also been adapted from there. And this version had been adopted as the national anthem of the Provisional Government of Free India. Okay, so we've seen that A, B, and C are all true. We have finally option D. The slogan Inqilab Zindabad was coined by Bhagat Singh. Now, you would all have heard this phrase, this slogan, which is basically long live revolution, right? Inqilab Zindabad translates to long live revolution. We have heard of this phrase a lot in context of Bhagat Singh, but who coined this slogan, who made this slogan? It was actually this important figure whose name is Hasrat Mohani. He was from Lucknow itself, and he is the person who had originally coined this particular phrase. Okay, so in this question, the correct answer is D, D for donkey. The slogan Inqilab Zindabad is incorrect. It is false. The slogan Inqilab Zindabad was not coined by Bhagat Singh. Rather, it was coined by Hasrat Mohani. Okay, so that is that. Now, I hope all of these related details you have gathered, you have absorbed, because these are things which can always be asked in questions which are related to the history and the freedom struggle. And like we've seen last year, this is a topic that can sometimes come up in the exam. Okay, now let's move on. Okay, one more question on national anthems. So you can see here, which of the following national anthems is incorrectly matched? Okay, so we have four options here. I've already given you the answer. So I just wanted to flag for you the national anthems of some important countries of the world, as well as of two countries which are in the news. Okay, so the first option is the incorrect one. That's Australia's national anthem is called the Advance Australia Fair. The Advance Australia Fair. Whereas God Save the King is the current national anthem of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, the UK. Remember, whenever it's a queen that's in power, who's reigning, then the national anthem changes to God Save the Queen. The US, their national anthem is the Star Spangled Banner. It's a beautiful song. Should check it out. Finally, the last two options I've mentioned here are correctly matched. But I just wanted you to know both of these, because Israel and Palestine are both in the news for the same reason. Israel's national anthem is called Hatikwa, whereas Palestine's national anthem is called Fidai. Okay, so these two I want you to remember. These can be important and can be asked in relation to any particular question or passage on Israel and Palestine, the genocide occurring there, the invasion by Israel into Palestine, the October 7th attack by Hamas inside the territory of Israel, or the several attacks which have been made by Israel against Iran, against Syria, and against other countries. Okay, so all of those topics are important. I promise to do one whole session on the Israel-Palestine conflict soon. So I won't digress right now. Let's go on to the next topic we have, which is the 100 years of the Union Public Service Commission. Now, this is something we've discussed before. I just want to remind you, there are two reasons UPSC is in the news this year, the Union Public Service Commission. The two reasons are, number one, the 100-year celebrations of UPSC are taking place, meaning the centenary celebrations of UPSC are currently taking place. And secondly, the latest chairperson of UPSC was also appointed in 2025. So let's do a little bit of history. Now, originally, there was this commission named the Lee Commission. Okay, as you know, commissions are popularly named after the people who chaired them. So this particular commission was chaired by Lord Lee of Fareham, and he is the one who chaired this commission. This commission recommended the creation of a body for regulating the superior civil services of India during British rule. So this is in the early 1920s. UPSC gets established in the form originally of PSC, or Public Service Commission. So when does it get established? We need to remember the date. It is the 1st of October, 1926. Okay, 1st October 1926 is when the Public Service Commission originally begins its operations. And at that time, who was the first chairman? The first chairman was this individual, a British man by the name of Ross Barker. Ross Barker. Now, as time passes, you know that in 1935, the British passed the Government of India Act. And you know that the Government of India Act also served as partially the model of administration under the Indian Constitution. Okay. So under that act, the Public Service Commission got transformed into the Federal Public Service Commission, or FPSC. As the years passed, around independence, we got the first Indian chairman of the Union Public Service Commission. At that time, it still used to be known as the Federal Public Service Commission. And who was that person who was the first Indian chairman? His name was H.K. Kripalani. Okay, H.K. Kripalani. Now, once the Constitution came into force, when on Republic Day, on 26th of January 1950, the Federal Public Service Commission transformed into the Union Public Service Commission. So under our Constitution, under the Constitution of India, Article 315 provides for the creation of the Union Public Service Commission as well as the State Public Services Commissions. All of this is provided in Part 14 of the Constitution. So remember, Part 14 creates UPSC, Part 15 creates the Election Commission of India. So Part 14, Article 315, Union Public Service Commission. Part 15, Article 324 created the Election Commission of India. Both of these bodies are constitutional bodies. They derive their creation and authority from the Constitution of India. Okay. Now, I mentioned that the second important reason that UPSC is in the news this year is the appointment of the latest chairperson. His name is Ajay Kumar. So this happened, I think, somewhere around April or May. That's when he was appointed. So still part of this year's current affairs. The last sort of fact that you have to remember. So two women have served as chairpersons of UPSC. But what we have to remember is the first one. So the first female chairperson of the Union Public Service Commission was Rose Million Bathew. Rose Million Bathew. Okay, so those are the people. Remember, first chairman, Ross Barker. First Indian chairman, H.K. Kriplani. First female chairperson, Rose Million Bathew. And the current chairperson, Ajay Kumar. The history began as the Public Service Commission on 1st October 1926, recommended by the Lee Commission. Under the Government of India Act 1935, it transformed into the Federal Public Service Commission, and under the Constitution of India, by Article 315 in Part 14, it became the Union Public Service Commission. What is its job? It's to regulate recruitment, conditions of service, etc., related to union government employees. Okay. All right. Finally, a couple of important related topics which come in current news. These are related to the civil services as well as the Union Public Services Commission. So number one is, when do we observe the Civil Services Day? Okay, can anybody give me the answer in chat? When do we observe the National Civil Services Day? Remember, why do we observe it? We observe it because on this day, a famous speech was given by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. He gave it to the first batch of recruits after independence. Okay, and in this speech, he called the civil services, the bureaucracy of India, as the steel frame of India. Okay, so Sardar Patel called the bureaucracy or the civil services as the steel frame of India in this speech on the 21st of April. And because of this, we observe the 21st of April as the National Civil Services Day in India. The other current important thing I wanted to mention is the name of the current cabinet secretary. Now, who is the cabinet secretary? It's the senior most bureaucrat in the country. He's usually he or she is an IAS officer. He's the senior most bureaucrat, and he chairs the Civil Services Board. Okay, his job is to serve as a bureaucrat to the entire cabinet. Okay, right now, who is it? It is T.V. Somanathan. Now, another reason you should know about him is the introduction of UPS, or the Unified Pension Scheme, which was announced last year but operationalized this year, right? It's sort of the new scheme after NPS, which was the new pension scheme under the National Pension System. So the Unified Pension Scheme was introduced last year, and the committee which recommended the creation of the Unified Pension Scheme was also the Somanathan Committee, headed by the same person. And right now, he serves as the Cabinet Secretary of India. Okay, so I hope all of these details are clear with reference to the civil services, with reference to the Union Public Service Commission. Okay, all right, perfect. Okay, one last thing. Who was the first Indian to become an ICS officer, Indian Civil Service or Imperial Civil Service? Who was the first Indian to become an ICS officer? His name is Satyendra Nath Bose. Okay, Satyendra Nath Bose. So remember all of these details. These are some of the core important topics which relate to the Union Public Service Commission. The two important reasons why this is in the news: the 100 years of UPSC being celebrated for one whole year, from 1 October 2025 to 1 October 2026. Second, the appointment of the current chairman of the Union Public Services Commission, Ajay Kumar. Two other reasons where we can link this topic to current news. One we did in the previous sessions. The introduction of the 8th Pay Commission can also be linked to this. And finally, we can also link it to the National Civil Services Day, the current cabinet secretary, and the introduction of UPS, the Unified Pension Scheme. Okay, so I hope that covers it all. Now, next, we are going to discuss a person who is absolutely important and vital to this country's independence and early history. And we also just discussed him. He is the one who called the civil services or the bureaucracy the steel frame of India. Okay, so we are, of course, talking about Sardar Patel. So, what I've done on the side here on the left is simply to mention the important points related to Sardar Patel. Okay, so we this year are going to be observing his 150th birth anniversary. When was he born? He was born on the 31st of October. And because of his birth anniversary, we observe Rashtriya Ekta Divas or National Unity Day on the 31st of October. Remember, the same day, 31st of October, is also the death anniversary of Indira Gandhi. It is that day on which she was assassinated by her bodyguards. And the place where she was assassinated is now a memorial known as Shakti Sthal. Okay. If I show you something cool, I have an original autograph of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. So let me just show it to you quickly, just as an aside. I hope you can all see it. Okay, so this is an original signature of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, which was taken from her by my own grandfather. So I just wanted to show it to you. So on 31st of October is not only the 150th birth anniversary of Sardar Patel, it's also the death anniversary of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. It is also World Cities Day. Okay, so let's come back to Sardar Patel. Sardar Patel was born on the 31st of October, which is why today we observe National Unity Day or Rashtriya Ekta Divas on this particular day. There's one more observance which I have not mentioned on the slide, but in the week surrounding Sardar Patel's birth anniversary, we also observe Vigilance Awareness Week. Okay, the Vigilance Awareness Week, the VAW, is observed in the week of Sardar Patel's birth anniversary. By which body? By the Central Vigilance Commission. And homework for you all is to check who is the current Chief Vigilance Commissioner. Number two, which committee recommended the creation of the Central Vigilance Commission? And number three, who was the first Chief Vigilance Commissioner? Okay, so just remember Sardar Patel, his own birth anniversary, 31st of October. Around his birth anniversary, the Vigilance Awareness Week. And on the day that he gave the steel frame of India speech, we observe the National Civil Services Day. Okay. Now, he famously is called the Iron Man of India or the Bismarck of India, as you can see on the screen. Why do we call him that? Because of his role in the freedom struggle, but more importantly, as the first deputy prime minister and the first minister of home affairs, and before that, the first minister for the states, he had a vital role in ensuring that the more than 500 princely kingdoms of India joined the Republic of India. As you know, when the British passed the Indian Independence Act 1947, what they said was there will be two countries, India and Pakistan, and all the various princely kingdoms of British India would be independent and free to join either India or Pakistan or remain independent. Okay. So when this was the situation, under his leadership, the consolidation of Indian territory took place. Okay. He died very soon after India gained its independence. So he died in 1950. Okay, so between 47 and 50, he served the country as its first deputy prime minister and its first minister of home affairs. And because of his work in the integration of princely states into India, we call him the Iron Man of India or the Bismarck of India. Okay, so that's a little bit about him. These are the details we need to know about him particularly. And finally, the National Unity Day we've already done. The last thing is he chaired only one session of the Indian National Congress. He was the president of the 1931 session of the INC, which took place in Karachi. Actually, the real last point on Sardar Patel, till date, the tallest statue in the world is of him, which is the Statue of Unity, which is located in Kevadia, Gujarat. Okay, so those are the important things about Sardar Patel. Remember, the government has formed a high-level committee to commemorate the 150th birth anniversary of Sardar Patel. Who heads that high-level committee? It is the Prime Minister. It's sometimes shocking how many committees and commissions are chaired by the Indian Prime Minister. I really wonder if it's actually possible for any Prime Minister to actually pay attention to the number of committees and commissions that he actually chairs. Okay, let's now move on. So the next topic we have is the 150th anniversary of Bhagwan Birsa Munda. Okay, now remember, Birsa Munda is a very important tribal leader from the areas which are today Jharkhand. He belonged to the Munda tribe and he led a very important movement called Ulgulan, or which basically translates to the Great Tumult. Okay, Ulgulan or the Great Tumult. It was primarily a movement against the British and especially against missionary activity by the British, especially in tribal areas. Okay, so this was a movement. He was a very prominent leader of it. He led that rebellion or revolt. And therefore, in his honor, the 15th of November each year, which is, just a week away, the 15th of November each year is therefore observed as the Janjatiya Gaurav Divas. Gaurav means pride, Janjatiya or tribes. Okay. So the Tribal Pride Day is what it would broadly or loosely translate to. The official name of the day, of course, is Janjatiya Gaurav Divas. So this is about to be celebrated in a week on his birth anniversary. Once again, the government has established a high-level committee to celebrate his 150th birth anniversary. And this again is chaired by the Prime Minister. Okay. In his honor, the airport at Ranchi is named as the Bhagwan Birsa Munda Airport. And finally, one last detail about him. He is also considered the founder of a religious sect or a religious movement. Some people consider it a religion in itself, known as Birsait, Birsait. And it is from there that the title of Bhagwan comes about. The marvelous thing about Birsa Munda is that he achieved all of this before he reached the age of 24. And he actually sadly passed away from an infection. I believe it was a cholera infection. He achieved all of this and passed away from a cholera infection at the young age of 24. Okay, so you should certainly always remember him. He is one of the great tribal leaders of this country, and which is why we are commemorating his 150th birth anniversary. Okay, so that covers Bhagwan Birsa Munda. Let's now move forward to Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Okay, so when it comes to Atal Bihari Vajpayee, we all know about him. He is far more proximate to our own times. Okay, Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Now, what I did is made a small MCQ so that we are able to do all of the important details related to him through a question. Once again, the form of the question is, which of the following is incorrect relating to Atal Bihari Vajpayee? So point one says, he was the first non-Congress politician to serve a full term as Prime Minister. the first non-Congress prime minister to serve a full term. Now, this is actually true. This is absolutely true. And what you should know is he was sworn in as the prime minister 3 different times. The first 2 times, his government did not survive. It could not prove its majority in the House. The third time he was sworn in as prime minister, he completed his full term and thereby became the first prime minister not from the Congress party to become prime minister and to serve out his full term. Of course, before him, others who were not from the Congress had served as prime ministers, but they were never able to complete their full term. Okay, so option A is true and correct. Let's see option B. He was never conferred the Bharat Ratna, India's highest civilian honor. So this is not true. As you all know, Atal Bihari Vajpayee was conferred the Bharat Ratna several years ago. Bharat Ratna, of course, is India's highest civilian honor. What are the things you should know about it? The first winners, we have done this, C. Rajagopalachari, S. Radhakrishnan, and C. V. Raman. The first female winner of the Bharat Ratna was Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. The first foreigner to win the Bharat Ratna was Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan. The first naturalized citizen of India to win the Bharat Ratna was Mother Teresa. The first posthumous Bharat Ratna, meaning given after somebody's death, was to Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri, the second Prime Minister of India. So do remember these details about the Bharat Ratna. Let's now come to option C. So till now we've seen option A is true, option B is false, option C, he is the longest serving member of parliament in India, having served a total of more than 50 years. Now, this is an absolutely amazing fact. This is actually true. By far, he is the longest serving member of parliament. Indeed, he has served in parliament as a member of parliament for more than 50 years. It's about 52 years and certain months and days, but he is the longest serving member of parliament in Indian history. In fact, he was a member of parliament while Jawaharlal Nehru was still alive. Okay, so that should tell you how long he was in parliament. Okay, in fact, he served in parliament till 5 years after he left office as prime minister. So you can imagine how long he was a parliamentarian. Option D merely mentions several important events which took place during his tenure. The 1998 Pokhran 2 tests, the nuclear tests, Operation Shakti, the 1999 Kargil War, relating to which we observe the Kargil Vijay Divas. That happens in which month? You have to find out. And finally, the 2001 Parliament attack. So all of these events took place during his tenure as the Prime Minister. A last few points related to Atal Bihari Vajpayee on his birth anniversary. So we are discussing his birth anniversary. On which date does it occur? It occurs on Christmas Day, on the 25th of December. Indeed, both Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Madan Mohan Malviya both have their anniversaries on the 25th of December, which is Christmas Day. Okay. In fact, when the NDA government came to power under Narendra Modi, very intriguingly and controversially, his birth anniversary, which was also Christmas, was declared as Good Governance Day. Okay, so that's basically the details we want to know about Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Those are the important details. Let's now move on to the next one. Here, the next one is about Syama Prasad Mookerjee. Sometimes he's known as Bharat Kesari, Syama Prasad Mookerjee, and it is his 125th birth anniversary. This is important because the government has declared a 2-year celebration or commemoration of his birth anniversary. Okay. Now we are going to see the important details related to him through this question. And this is going to tell us all of the important details which we need to know. He was a very accomplished figure. First, let me tell you one or two details about him which are not in these questions. He was the youngest vice chancellor of Calcutta University, if I'm not wrong. Um, he was related to the All India Hindu Mahasabha as well as the Bharatiya Jan Sangh. He was a minister in India's first government, and he is considered an ideological mentor to the Bharatiya Janata Party, which is in power today. So let's see the options. Option A, he was the founder president of the Bharatiya Jana Sangh, the precursor of the Bharatiya Janata Party. This statement is absolutely true. Before this, he was involved in and he even served as the president of the All India Hindu Mahasabha. Then, due to differences with them, in fact, his differences, I think, were to the effect that Muslims should be allowed membership of the All India Hindu Mahasabha. And when others did not agree, I believe that is when he stepped down. He had major differences with them. And therefore, he founded the Bharatiya Jan Sangh, which later then converted into the Bharatiya Janata Party. In India's first government in independent India, he served as the Minister of Industry and Supply. As you know, the first government that was formed had representatives of almost every party. So the Prime Minister was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and he inducted ministers from across the political spectrum, from across the parties, even parties that had previously opposed the Congress. So even though he belonged to the All India Hindu Mahasabha, he was inducted as a Minister of Industry and Supply in the first government of independent India. C says he opposed the Quit India movement as well as Article 370 of the Constitution, which provided special status to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. This statement is also true. He is well known for his opposition to both of these. Very interesting that he opposed the Quit India movement pre-independence, whose main target was to oppose the British. But the other provision, Article 370, which gave special status to Jammu and Kashmir, that was also opposed by him. And in fact, he died while he was in Jammu and Kashmir. He had been taken into preventive custody and he died in prison. Option D, the Nhava Sheva port in Navi Mumbai is named after him. So this is not correct. The Calcutta port is named after him, okay? Whereas the Nhava Sheva port in Navi Mumbai is named after Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay, so those are the important details about Syama Prasad Mookerjee, who is a known and important character in the history of Indian independence. Okay, so today we've covered several important anniversaries. We began with the 150th anniversary of Vande Mataram. We did important details related to the national anthem. We also saw several details about Inqilab Zindabad, Sare Jahan Se Acha, as well as Subh Sukh Chain Ki Barkha Barse. Then we saw the national anthems of some other countries which are important and always remain in the news. Next, we saw the 100 years of UPSC, its establishment, on which committee's recommendation it was established, its history through the years, beginning as the PSC, then transforming into the FPSC, and ultimately transforming into the UPSC under the Constitution. We saw two reasons why this is important. The 100-year celebrations of UPSC have begun, and they will go on for one whole year. Second, the appointment of the latest chairman of UPSC, Ajay Kumar. Next, we saw the 150th birth anniversary of Sardar Patel and the important details related to him, especially in the month of October, including the celebration of the Rashtriya Ekta Divas or National Unity Day. We saw the 150th birth anniversary of Bhagwan Birsa Munda, which is observed on the 15th of November as Janjatiya Gaurav Divas. Then we saw the 100th birth anniversary of Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, finally rounding off with the 125th birth anniversary of Syama Prasad Mookerjee, which the government has declared is going to be a 2-year commemoration. All right. So those are the topics we've covered for today. I hope they were informative and I hope they will help you prepare for the Clat exam. It was once again lovely to see all of you this evening. Best of luck for Clat. Keep tuning in, subscribe to our channel, and you'll meet all of our various faculty members through these last lap revision sessions. You've met with Satyam sir, with Ananya ma'am, as well as with myself. And in future sessions, you will be meeting other faculty members at Clat Possible as well. So if you find this useful, do share it with your friends. And I'll see you all tomorrow for the next session of the last lap. Thank you for attending. Bye-bye.